on a 2013 BMW 335i, and as you can see, got a little bit of stuff happening under the hood here. I've been having a few issues with it, a couple of which have been the gaskets, the oil cooler housing gasket, the oil filter housing gasket, as well as the valve cover gasket have all gone to crap on this car. Started leaking oil to the point to where the car was telling me that it was below minimum level and that continuing driving could damage the engine. At that point, I put it down and just got to the point to where I could actually work on it, as well as all the gaskets going bad. My Valvetronic motor is doing the infamous noise, the clicking noise whenever you open or unlock your car door. So while I'm here, I've already gone ahead and changed out the two gaskets, the oil filter housing gasket and the oil cooler gasket. And I haven't obviously done the valve cover gasket yet because I'm still working in this area. But today I'm going to try to tackle the removal of the Valvetronic motor, the installation of a new one, and hopefully it goes smoothly. I did have to wait about a week between the first part that I did on this car and then this part. I didn't really feel like filming too much because it's such an involving job and I wanted to focus on getting it done and getting it done properly. But I'm here to try to film the second part now because I haven't found too much information on the internet regarding the Valvetronic motor. Anyway, BMW requires you to have a special tool to remove the injectors, so I had to wait a weekend or half a week to get that in. I wasn't surprised to find out that you kind of need a specialty tool to remove the injectors out of a modern day BMW. You know, it's kind of stupid, but BMW is BMW about it. So this is what this contraption does. It removes two injectors at the same time. A little crazy how it works. Just need to remove the injector isolator or whatever that plate is called right there. I've already done so. This screws in its place, and then the injectors latch on to these and you just extract them out that way. You can also install new injectors or the existing injectors into the vehicle the same way. Now, upon all of the construction or deconstruction that I've done on the motor here, I did break the coolant reservoir return line, if that's what you want to call it, on both ends, at the reservoir and on the hose right off of the radiator. So as you can see, this was pretty dry, brittle plastic, and just by putting a little bit of force working on other components, snapped it right off. Same thing over here on this side. Not an issue, because I ended up buying another one at the expense of about $40. The tool was almost $50. That's pretty ridiculous for a specialty tool, but I didn't buy it made by BMW, made by somebody else. The job should get done the same way, either way. So the reason you need to take the injectors out is the Valvetronic motor is kind of sandwiched between these two sets of cylinders or injectors, pistons, whatever, and the bolts are right in between here, and there's one down here. You can get this one without removing the injectors and I'm gonna call these just injector blocks. I'm not sure the technical term for them, but you need to remove these two rectangular housings for those two bolts back there. And also we're gonna have to crank on the Valvetronic motor to turn the eccentric shaft to the highest position so that we can extract that. I do not know what this arm is. I have never seen this arm before. Like I said, I'm kind of flying blind on this, but there are two torque heads down there, one on each side, one or two for each. Need to unbolt those, and then this little housing or whatever assembly should come out. And if anybody was wondering, it is a T30 Torx for the two bolts in each housing here, as well as the three that are on the Valvetronic motor. So with those two bolts out, let's see if this comes out. Don't imagine it's going to be very easy. Actually, was not hard at all. And now what we're left with is the Valvetronic motor sticking out of the top here. You can see the eccentric shaft kind of half wheel there with the teeth. Next step is going to be to wind. There's an Allen key spot right here. It's going to be to wind the motor all the way up to where the eccentric shaft is out of the little sprocket there, and then unbolt it, and hopefully it comes out as smoothly as I'm explaining it, and the new one slides in just the same way. I was actually doing a little bit of fiddling around off camera because I got stuck. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't rotate the eccentric shaft any further than what it was allowing me. Turns out there's a little stopper that you need to remove. There's one on this side right here. Right there at the end of my fingertip is an 11 millimeter. And then on this same side, or on the opposite side, but right across, is another one. I removed that one and was able to rotate the shaft out of the way of the worm gear here. I did end up putting one bolt back in just so things wouldn't go flying around or moving around too much. And I did go ahead and rotate the eccentric shaft over. Just be careful when doing so, because things kind of get a little hairy. They want to hold tension and rotate on you. Just don't allow it to over rotate or rotate too fast, because that eccentric shaft will flick around and it could break off something, and you do not want to replace an eccentric shaft. They're about $1,000 for one of them. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the motor out, replace it with the new one. I got the new one right here actually. This is it. This is all there is to it. That worm gear right there. We'll just undo that one bolt, slide this one back down, rotate the eccentric shaft back over, and these are the pins that are showing on top of the valve cover. If you ever take off your engine cover, you'll see a little harness that plugs in about right here. You can unplug that and see the exact pins. Should be a direct OE replacement part. So let's go ahead and throw it in. And we're going to take the new Valvetronic motor and slide it into place. And the next step is going to be to rotate the eccentric shaft back down and take the Allen key that we used to rotate this worm gear. Hopefully it's the same size, and it is. So we'll want to rotate this worm gear at the same time that we rotate the eccentric shaft back down. I'm using a 13 millimeter wrench on this end of the eccentric shaft because it's going to have some tension on it, and we just need to push it down enough to where it starts rotating. It's pretty tough. Just where it starts rotating. With the eccentric shaft. Once again, I ran into just a small pushback. I was having trouble rotating the eccentric shaft back around due to these loaded springs here. Whenever you have the eccentric shaft all the way over, there is so much tension due to these springs that you have to try to figure out how to overcome that tension to rotate it back around. Needless to say, and long story short, the new Valvetronic motor is in. As you can see, you can stick an Allen key in here. You can rotate the Allen key and see the eccentric shaft moving. But you do not want to just let this Allen key go if you're doing this, because there is so much tension on the eccentric shaft and things can get really bad really fast if you do. Really, the only thing left to do is to put everything back on in reverse order that I took it off in. Throw the new valve cover gasket on, as well as the new valve cover. Get everything wired back correctly, which I may have to look at a reference video to do. There's a guy on YouTube, Eat Sleep Drive, who has done the video on the valve cover gasket, as well as the oil cooler and oil filter housing gasket, so I'm not going to bore you guys with how to do that. If you want to know how to do that, go and check out his videos that he's already created. I was here really to just replace the Valvetronic motor. My gaskets happened to be bad and oil was everywhere inside of the engine bay. So hopefully this solves my problem and gets rid of that annoying noise that you hear with a bad Valvetronic motor. Praying, because that has been the case of this car for a few months now, and it's embarrassing, along with the smoke coming out due to bad gaskets. So I'm gonna work on getting everything put back together. We'll fire up the car, top off with some coolant, and I'm gonna go ahead and change the oil due to the amount of loss that this car has had. As you can see, I almost have everything put back together. Just got a few little bits and pieces to put back on, like the rubber across the top there, as well as the strut bar, the air filter and air intake pipe that goes right here. Unfortunately, I was not expecting to find the filtered air intake pipe that comes out right here to be off of its position in the bottom, as well as over here. This is the actual pipe itself. The fitting, or this hose that goes right there, plugs into there. That part was actually broke off. This is the part that goes on the end of this bit, but that was broke off. You can clearly tell the plastic was chipped and broken, and it's not going to work. So I just looked up to see how much one of those is. It's about $130, which I definitely wasn't expecting to replace. Unfortunately, the car is not going to get started tonight, so I think I'm just going to pick this video back up whenever that part is in, so that I can go ahead and change the oil, put that part on, replace this coolant return line, and then after that we should be good to go. So it's actually been a decent amount of time since the last clip. Enough time has passed to where I did not film the rest of what I needed to do on the F30. But it is complete, it is finished, all the gaskets are replaced, the new Valvetronic motor is in place. That was a chore in itself. Hopefully whatever I have for you guys so far is enough to kind of create some sort of idea of what it's like to replace that. Maybe it helps somebody, maybe it won't. If it does, great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. However, there is still plenty of things to come on the E30. I'm actually really excited about what's in the future for this car. It's come a long way, and I still have a lot of things that I want to do to it. Hopefully we make some decent progress with this thing. Probably gonna just leave this thing alone and just use it as a daily. I really don't want to do much else to it, but thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you later.